Hi guys, we are doing a review for the Prima Marketing Watercolor Confections Pastel Dreams palette. It is really cute, and this is kind of a review and demo. It's a really long video. I apologize, but you'll see why the longer we get into it. Now, I really love the tin case. For that alone, it is worth the $20. All of these colors have a pastel sort of hue to them. They have the colors on the bottom of the packaging, as I'm showing here, but they also have them printed on the plastic cases, which I find to be very useful because you can buy them individually from the company, sort of. It's kind of complicated to buy these. Amazon seems to be your best option. I actually went looking to buy just the individual ones, and it looks like you can only order from the website if you're wholesale, which doesn't seem very wise, but hey, whatever. The colors are really pretty. I did my own test sheet as well as the one that they provide for you, and I do really love the colors. However, there's a lot of problems with this, just everything about this video. First of all, I had this picture that I had just sketched up, and I hadn't really put any thought into it. It was just a girl we're going to paint, pastel colors, pretty, whatever. I have never had this problem with this watercolor paper before, but it started bunching and ripping, and I had to toss it. So I went to a different kind of watercolor paper, and I did some sketches of my brand new bunny, who is very cute, and I do overall like the way that this page in my sketchbook turned out. I'm a little salty about having to throw away the other sketch, but it wasn't very good anyway, so whatever. We'll just call that on the paper, although I've never had that problem with the paper before. Whatever. I did not have any problems with pilling or the paper ripping with this particular sketchbook, but I did run into some other problems. So right now I'm putting down really soft washes of these colors and then dipping a little bit more of it onto the page, especially around the ears for just a little bit more of a shadow and texture. And I have mixed feelings about this watercolor. I really love the color. Let's just start there. I love the color, and I really like the way that it popped in my drawings. I love that mint kind of color. I love really everything about the colors themselves. However, these do not perform like watercolors. I know that it says they're watercolors. I know that they look like watercolors. I know that when you water them down enough, they look like watercolors. However, obviously, this is a pastel palette, so you would not expect a huge range, and the color payoff could be kind of weird. It doesn't really matter how much you water these colors down. They still are very pretty. However, when you use them at more of their full consistency, they are chalky. And by chalky, I mean they are opaque. They are so opaque, in fact, that they perform like student-grade gouache. They feel like Reeves student-grade gouache to me, which is not terrible because I do like gouache, and I have a ton of other watercolor, so I'm not super salty about it not performing like a watercolor. But I am. I had originally done this so that I could practice drawing my bunny and so that I could practice painting flowers, because what's a better thing to do with pastels than to paint flowers? However, I used the Prismacolor Prismacolor Colorase pencils, and usually I can see those through my watercolor so that I can lay down the colors and line it later. I prefer to line my pictures and illustrations with the Pentel Pocket Brush Pen, which is not waterproof. It provides a really nice line variation, a nice weight to it, and it's my favorite thing to ink with. But it's not waterproof. So I sketch with the Prismacolor Colorase pencils, and then I put down watercolor, and then I use the ink afterward. This was not effective with this piece because I lost all of my lines under the watercolor, because every time that I would try and build up the color to use the full force, like that full force purple that is on the legs of the bunny compared to the light purple shadows that are on the bunny, that dark purple is thick, it's chalky, it has a texture to it noticeably visually And when I actually rub it, which I will show you in a later clip, it's just something weird about it. And I really love the colors. The colors go very well together. It is a complementary palette, but it just doesn't feel like watercolor. I don't even know what else to say about it. It's so weird. I wouldn't have understood this particular feeling if I wasn't playing with them myself. Now I did, aside from the Prima watercolor marketing, whatever you want to call that, I did also get myself a set of Kuretake Starry Night watercolors that, again, do not perform like watercolors. I don't know if they message them. Oh my goodness. I don't know if they market them like watercolors, but they feel really nice. And I did use these on this piece as well. That was kind of my point. A little bit of a demo of both. And I'm really, really impressed with the Starry Night watercolor ink things. They have a really heavy glitter to them. Obviously, they're supposed to, but basically when you add water to them, and I do spritz all of my watercolor things with like a spray bottle to let them kind of absorb moisture and be easier to work with, they, like, the glitter pigment moves on its own. You can see it in there, but also when I put it down on the page, it'll sit wherever the water is, but then it moves and migrates, and it's like its own living glitter beast. It's amazing. I've never quite seen anything like it, and I'm really upset with myself that I waited so long to get them, because I've had my eye on them for years, and they're like $10. Like, that's the cost of a pizza at the grocery store. I could have easily bought these before, but you know, live and learn. I will always recommend these to people. I highly, highly recommend them. They're a great addition to other paintings and watercolors. I can't wait to use them in the future. But now I'm going to switch to that chalky sound from the Prima watercolors. So here's that. I'd just like to point out how opaque this is, that I lost all of the pencil in this, and it sounds scratchy. Compared to this smooth part of my paper, it's just very chalky. And I have worked with watercolors before. It's not like I am completely oblivious to what I'm doing, but something about this paint just kind of rubs me the wrong way. So I don't know yet, but my bunny is really cute, and I do really like how these glitter things work with this color palette. I think it is a very brilliantly chosen color palette. So I didn't wind up filming any of the inking of this page, but this is what I wound up with. Now, the blacks that are on the bunny are the way that I like to ink things. It's the Pentel Pocket Brush Pen. It's my love. It's my baby. And I really like the contrast that it offers, having those line variations and the weight with the subject, which is the bunny in this. It sounds like I know what I'm talking about, but I don't. I'm just trying to say that I like how the black shows up, and I like how there's like a variation with the line weight in contrast to all of the flowers and all of the other things that are on this piece. Now, I do actually like this flower, and I like my little moon, and other than that, I kind of don't like anything else. And part of that is just that I was not able to get the kind of crisp lines that I wanted from the watercolor. And granted, I did not try very hard. If you watched any of the video, I didn't try the way I might have if I was working with something else. I really hate this little flower thing. It's actually supposed to be a gemstone, and I had drawn so many little facets in it, and then I realized that that watercolor was just not going to be the right medium for this, that I kind of tried to turn it into a flower, and now it just looks like a red turd. So let's ignore that. But this actually, I was showing earlier that this texture is so different with this paint, and it was very, very scratchy putting my pen to it. Now I used the Pentel brush pen on the bunny. Everything else that I did detail-wise for these pen marks, including the outlines around all of the Kuretake Starry Night ink, all of these outlines are Staedtler fine liners. They look like this. Staedtler, upside down, just kidding. Fine liners, Dry Plus, they're awesome. I have a set of them, like all of these, and I matched them up as best as I could with my handy dandy little color chart that I had made, and I tried to make them work, and I think the only place that really did was here. But overall, my problem with these is that because the watercolor is so opaque, I lost all of the lines that I had originally made for like these leaves or for these stones. So I had to just kind of wing it, and I had used reference when I had actually drawn those, and I don't have the reference pictures immediately available to me. So then I'm like, I have no idea where the darks or the highlights should go down on these pieces because I don't have a reference anymore. So that was supremely frustrating. However, I really like the contrast of these colors with my black pen. Now, if I could find a happy medium, that would be great. The other thing that occurred to me while I was filling this in and lining it is that because, like with the bunny, it doesn't matter because I used a black pen. That's fine either way, although I won't be able to use a brush pen, so that is annoying. However, all of these fine liners, I matched the colors for afterward. Now, my problem with this is that if I want to use colored liners on the details on this other page, that means that the colored liners are what's going to dictate my color and not the actual paint. Do you know what I mean? Like if I pick, this is a stupid suggestion, but like if I pick this blue and it doesn't quite match up with this blue or something, like I have to pick based on what colors are in there, which just seems stupid to me. I don't know that that's gonna work very well, saying that, not having done this yet. My other concern is that if I don't do the colors for all of these obscure things, if I don't do the line art for those in a color specific to them, then I'm not going to have the contrast between the bunnies and everything else, which I do really like about this page. Like you can clearly tell the bunnies are the point and everything else is just kind of filler. It's just fun. And I think I'm gonna lose that with this side. And obviously only time will tell, but I'm not really happy with having to make that choice right now. I'm hoping that further use will give me an idea of how to paint better with these, and maybe it is limiting in the kind of subject matter that I will be doing. Maybe it's just not quite for my art style the way I'm trying to use it right now, but it does really go down very chalky. The places here where I really filled it in for a full color, like there is a texture to it. I don't know that I can adequately show it, but there is a texture there compared to my normal page, and it is hard. It's like the pale parts are fine, but when I went down to add more detail, it definitely got harder, if that makes any sense. The jury is still out on this, guys. I really like the colors. I really do. I don't know how I feel about performance just yet. But we have another page and we're going to go for it. And I feel like this is going to be like the longest freaking review of an art supply that I have ever done in my life. But I feel like I needed to express these differences. I'm actually really happy that I had decided to do a full spread so that I've got these two alternatives to try this with, because I really didn't anticipate these being so opaque. In any case, I will be back with this probably when there's daylight, because it's dark outside now and my light does not look very pretty. So tomorrow, adieu. Alright guys, I am back. You gotta bear with me. It's been a little more than a month since I originally filmed this and all of its beginning parts. So I went through after I had my little rant just prior to this clip, and I picked liners that looked like they would match for the color choices that I've got in that palette. And I think I did a pretty good job of matching them. Unfortunately, basically every problem that I thought I was going to have, I had, in terms of being able to tell what was underneath the paint. And I don't know, maybe my problems with the watercolors are entirely due to the bias that I thought I would have going in, but I don't know. I don't have an accurate answer yet. I'm not sure if I like them or not. There are definitely really, really beautiful colors in the set, and I want to like them. I really do. But I think I'm actually gonna wind up trying to use these again for a different kind of illustration, something where I'm looking for just flat colors, because I will say, as a pro to these, aside from how beautiful the colors are, they go down so flat, and I have a really hard time usually with watercolors getting them to go down flat. So that actually is a really good thing. I think it's probably because they're so opaque, and not because they're supposed to be watercolor. But regardless, thinking that I'm going to do an illustration just using these a little bit later in the future, and I will probably dub that like the take 2 of trying to determine what I feel about these paints as a product. I am obviously going to keep using them. I love the colors. I love them. Yeah, I don't know. This is such a like wishy-washy kind of review. I apologize. I am glad that I mixed these with the Kuretake Starry Night palette sort of thing that I got, because all of the golds in that go really well with that creamy orange brown color that I wound up using on the bunnies in this. But other than that, all of the same problems I had in the first half of this video continue with this half. The color goes down fine, and it's really beautiful. It holds its intensity. It's just that it's so chalky, and I just lose everything underneath. And I really, really hated lining those bunnies in a hard liner. It's just not a strong skill that I have. I work much better with a brush pen, and just everything I do with a liner is so stiff. Not that I know what I'm doing otherwise, but whatever. Also, right here, I am using the lighter blue as a bit of a shadow for the hair, and I should have gone with the purple that I did on the other page. It just looked better. Live and learn. So still sort of jury's out on these. I recommend them if you are only going to be doing sort of drawings that are maybe limited in their color palette, things that you're not going to layer. I did not find this to be super helpful with layering things because I couldn't get that color intensity with a light wash, if that makes sense. Like, you can get like the St. Petersburg Starry Nights palette, or not Starry Nights, it's a White Nights palette. Those paints are watercolor, and they are very, very vibrant, and you can still get a really high color payoff and be able to see the things going on underneath your paints. So I don't see why this should be any different. I guess it's just the formula of the palette, and I am sure that I mentioned it earlier, but the paints are very sticky. And I don't know how they go from being sticky in the pan to being so chalky on paper, but it's an issue regardless. Yeah. So I leave you with this. I did not find it any nicer the second go around. I think I might also test a different kind of paper, but I will say that this particular sketchbook is my favorite watercolor sketchbook. Of all of the papers I've ever used, this paper handles watercolor the best. So I don't think that changing the paper type is going to really add or detract from these pieces, but we will continue to experiment with them going forward, like I said, I don't know if maybe this is just not the style for them. So I'll try something that requires a much more flat, like color. I don't know exactly what a good way to say it is. I'm actually specifically in my head thinking when you are on Instagram and sometimes you will see artists who are digital artists and they make beautiful simplistic illustrations and they're almost always flat colors. There's no shading and it's just the vibrancy of the colors that makes the illustration pop. That's what I'm thinking, but I've only really noticed that with Copic marker and with digital, because you can get such a flat line, or a clean one anyway. But maybe that will be the kind of thing to use these with. Still undetermined. Anyway, thank you for watching this ridiculously long video. If you lasted this long, let me know if you have this palette, what you think of it, and if you have other Prima Marketing watercolor sets, if they seem to have the same problems that I was having in this one. Let me just know down below. What do you think about these paints? Do you think they would be good for one thing versus another? Am I maybe using them wrong? Is there something I'm missing, like instructions or a degree? You know, anything? Yeah, so that's what I've got, guys. Have a good day or night or whatever it is that you are doing currently. And I really highly recommend the Starry Night Kuretake palette because that one gave me no problems and that one is gorgeous. And I've used it on a couple of other paintings so far and it goes well over every single medium that I've put it on. So I highly recommend that. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Go make something!